One was saying that Nnamdi Kanu says Simon Ekpa is aided by the federal government. Another one talks about the amount of trillions of naira that leaves the southeast, because of the banditry and the armed robbery, and over 50 armed groups in the region already. But let's start from your visit to Nnamdi Kanu.
Well, I'll start by thanking the director of the State Security Service for at least allowing me. It's one area of government that I visited, and it looked like you're in Europe. Good process. Nobody wasted your time. All the screening processes went, quite on time. And when it was time for me to go visit him, one or two persons escorted me to where I was supposed to meet with him. And I must admit, it's one of the most emotional times of my life. First, that I saw a very brilliant Nigerian. Extraordinarily brilliant Nigerian, well-spoken, very, very intelligent, who knew what he was fighting for. And we embraced ourselves more than 10 times. It became very, very touchy for both of us. And I asked him, why did you invite me? He said, because he knows I will say the truth of what he has told others than they didn't want to believe. So the essence of it was that he wanted me to tell, especially the Southeasterners, that he does not support the sit-at-home in any form. If they did it once as a symbolic gesture, yes, it's appreciated, but not to make it a regular feature from 1 day to 1 week to 2 weeks. Now, who does that to his own people? That if or whomsoever he is supporting him, you don't create a double jeopardy for our people. Every Monday, nobody does anything. Some people depend on either their wheelbarrows or trucks or keke to make living, to maintain their families. How can he be inflicting pain on his people? It's a very simple thing. And that the handwritten note that was circulated, that he wrote it. That is not fake. He wrote it, that I should say so. That he does not support it. So I promised him that I'm not getting any younger. I will try to make out time to go to Finland. I've already sent messages because this is not the time of warmongering now. And I have to see this and say, what's your problem? Because if he doesn't listen, I've seen the reply he made, which gives me the tendency to believe that some people are sponsoring him. If you want to be leader of your people, will you be leader of the dead or the living? He's from Ebonyi State, I understand. And the other day I was looking on social media where people supposedly representing him were firing all over the place. And a small child of under 1 year was abandoned by his or her parents, and they ran away. And I was just most weeping, praying God that bullet not touch this small child, and I hope nothing happened to him or her. Is that the nature of the leadership? And this is the worry. These are the worries that Nnamdi Kanu has.
So he's not aware of Simon Ekpa's, representation of him.
He knows that Simon Ekpa was supporting him because of the interest of justice. But they have turned into another dimension. Because I read what he was saying that he's Prime Minister of Biafra in exile. It's sad for me. Not after fighting for Biafra, and somebody tells me you're Prime Minister in exile where you're taking orange juice, you're a citizen of Finland, living comfortably in security, and your people here are almost in desolate, nothing to eat, no petrol, nothing, and you're still threatening them that they won't go to work on Monday. Is that love? It is not love. This is where Nnamdi Kanu disagrees completely with what they are doing. And he said I should say so, that he does not support sit-at-home, that their people should be allowed to make a living. He stands for justice, but you cannot have justice without peace. You have to address peace by addressing justice. So it's a problem. Oh. And like I said, I've started the contact making. I probably will wait until the tribunal, verdict is out. Yesterday I spent time trying to get in touch with the Finnish embassy to see how I can get, because I need to go and see the young man and really find out what is going on with him. Because our people cannot continue this way. We can't continue this way.
All right, so in essence, people would say Simon Ekpa is hiding away under the protection of the Finland government, and the sit-at-home is happening here, lives have been lost, and he's covered and embraced by the protection he enjoys away from Nigeria. But then you also find out this man may not be acting in isolation. There are young people here who take orders from him, who are maiming, who are looting, who are the ones carrying out the damage. So how does the state come into this play? Because I know that oftentimes several governors, one was the last comment from Governor Hope Uzodimma, who said they should ask Simon Ekpa to return home, to sit at home with them if he needs to enforce that law. So what is the role? I mean, what has been the role of the government, speaking for Nnamdi and also trying to end this saga?
If you remember, maybe about a year ago on this platform, I had said if we had serious governance in the Southeast, I don't care whether you're APC, PDP, now we have two APC governments, one APGA, one PDP, and one Labour. I'm not interested in the nomenclature of where you're coming from. I'm interested in seeing the 5 governors we have sit down and know that the protection of our people lies squarely on their hands. This crying of Sana did that, these are because there are lacunas here and there that they are exploiting. If a governor is in charge, if I'm in charge of a state, I bet you cannot enter my state and just do anything you like. You can't. You can't. It just means that people are not using their brain. Because people voted for you, you're part of that state. You know what is going on in that state. Once in a while, one or two persons can smuggle themselves into the state and do one or two nonsense and escape, but it won't be a regular feature. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I was seeing the social media where a Reverend sister was almost, bastardized, beaten up, her face swollen in Anambra State. Reverend fathers are kidnapped, some killed. So it become a way of life. Our governors have to decide. It's not a matter of Hope Uzodimma talking and Enugu governor talking and that one. They have to have a concerted effort. Come to the federal government, because the whole problem, people are also exploiting the fact that Nnamdi Kanu is detained. And they push it under that is what they are fighting for. Which is unfortunate. Because if our 5 governors and 15 senators and our members of the federal house have effectively pushed this government, and by this government I mean from Buhari's government, what is the offense of Nnamdi Kanu? I asked. Nobody has been able to tell me. When some Igbo leaders met Buhari, he said that the judicial process has to take its course. The judicial process took its course, and the Court of Appeal of all courts discharged him of all the charges against him. For the first time in the history of any legal process in the world, Malami, who was then the most dishonest attorney general this country has ever had, ran to a judge, and I think that judge is now the chairman of the Presidential Appeal Committee, ran to him and he granted an order for keeping Nnamdi Kanu in detention. It's unheard of anywhere in law. So you don't understand really what is going on in this country, that nobody is interested in obeying the rule of law, because I believe the processes Tinubu has passed in his life, especially the fight he joined Abiola to do in 2020 election, he should be one person to appreciate what rule of law means. And I have said this once or twice, and I don't think he's appreciating what it means. Because if he releases this boy, he will be a walking piece of history. He will be a walking piece of history if he releases this boy. He's not releasing him because he likes his faith, but because the courts have said so. And I believe either a President Atiku Abubakar or a President Peter Obi will release him. They will obey the rule of law. There's no reason why that boy will be languishing in prison. I was happy that he has made me to be his political advisor, telling him what is going on in his place and what for us to do to move our people forward. And it's a job I have gladly accepted to do for him. And I'll try as much as possible to see him from time to time. But to be able to coordinate it, I have to travel to Finland to see this man and know what his problem is. I mean, stay in the South. People don't come home. Our young men and women don't come home anymore. All wedding ceremonies. This is one festival Igbos enjoy. Wine carrying, wedding. Everybody in the village is expectant of that. It doesn't happen anymore. We're now doing it in Lagos and in other cities. It's unfortunate for somebody to tell his people not to move out on Monday. It's a pity.
Okay. Okay, I mean, in terms of the facts and history, some people would also say, especially some scholars, historians, such as yourself, would go back in memory to the year 2003 when Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu visited, I beg your pardon, Ojukwu visited Buhari in Daura, and they had a conversation. And one of the things that came out of that analysis was that Nigeria must remain one, and the hate messages must end. However, with the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu, does it seem like that conversation is being practiced in real time?
If you remember, I mentioned that on this platform about 2 years ago. I said we were 6 of us, General Odumegwu Ojukwu invited to tell us that the Buhari had asked him to come to Buhari to discuss about the future of this country. And the other 5 said no, that he wasn't going to. I was the only one who said, go. Igbos have a saying that whatever is in your stomach does not smell until you pass it out. So go to him, listen to him, and know where he's coming from. And he went and spent 2 days with him in Buhari's house. They had a 5-point understanding. Unfortunately, Ojukwu died later. Buhari could not even as much as attend the funeral of Ojukwu. And none of those 5 points did he, make an attempt after being president of. Because when he invited him, he wasn't president. It was just ordinary Buhari. Then he became president. None of those 5 agendas they agreed upon to push this country forward. And one of them specifically said how the Southeast will be seriously put into the mainstream of the Nigerian political process. And he agreed to that. Probably the only attempt he made was probably using Igbos as his vice presidential candidate at each point in time. But after that, what next? All he now did was his stoking paranoia and hatred. The achievement of putting Nnamdi Kanu in detention now for 4 years going, kidnapping a young man from Kenya. When a government plans to kidnap people, just like they kidnapped former Minister of Transport under Shagari, what is the name of Rasha from Kaduna? The mathematician, the brilliant top minister, Omar Odiko. They kidnapped him from London. So this government is now known for kidnapping people. And they spend millions of dollars to their elements in Kano who help them to kidnap Nnamdi Kanu. So that is the success of Buhari. To kidnap a citizen. Why? Because he's talking about justice for his people. Is that a crime? You may not like his methodology. All Nnamdi Kanu represents is the unjust processes against our people for the past 50 years. And the people we have in government don't appear to understand what is going on. Now they can't go home. Now it is coming down to everybody what the problem is all about. So Nnamdi Kanu is not on his own in what he's saying. After seeing him 2 days ago, I committed myself that I will give support to try to see how our place can be a lot better. Igbos don't destroy. Those who build don't destroy. So nobody can accuse us of being part of a destructive process. Nnamdi Kanu cannot be an exception. He's a boy who loves the interests of this country and especially the interests of his people. All he's asking, put us as part of the system. And if you don't want us to be part of the system, then allow us to be on our own. You cannot be taller than me and be shorter than me at the same time. If we're not part of it, because the 8 years of Buhari, we were not part of the system. And the strongest part of government is the National Security Council. There was nobody from South-East who was in that council for 8 years. That is where the strategic decisions of every country is taken. So when you come to the South-East now, this is occupied by military people, you don't know where they're coming from. If there are 20,000 mobile policemen or policemen in general in the South-East, not up to 100 of them are Igbos. So also soldiers. But you see, the exciting thing about it is that it does not stop our people from giving them arms, water, bread, and everything. Because now soldiers refuse to do what they are told to do. Every time I come out at any checkpoint, I will give them money. I deliberately do that. By this, this is not what they told us the Igbos are. These are the most benevolent people we have ever seen. They are so happy about it. So, but all these rascals under or whomsoever go about, and like Nnamdi Kanu told me that he's against anybody killing a security officer who is supposed to protect law and order. And once that is done, they ascribe it back to IPOD. This is unfair.
Now, I hear you say that most of them are not of the Southeastern origin. I mean, you talked about some of the military there. But some people have also argued that the Southeast region has turned into a war zone without any external aggressor. What I mean by this is that they have enemies within that they created by themselves because of the sit at home and, of course, the declaration by Simon Ekpa. So how do you look at those who are of the descent, who are of the origin of the Igbos, and how do they get reevaluation of what they're doing and then perhaps some sense of reorientation? Some people have said, well, is the lack of job, is the lack of incentive, is the anger perhaps for some? And, of course, remember we had the prison break in Imo State and several parts, some years back. So really, is there a collaboration, even with those within which you've mentioned that are not of the Igbo descent, with those of the Igbo descent within?
Well, I will address that by first saying the nature of leadership we now have in the Southeast is pretty unfortunate because we have presidents Nnamdi Azikiwe, Emaya Bara, Alvin Ikoku, SG Koku, Sam Mbakwe,